Hello, everybody. Welcome to Western Cinema Presents Part 2 of Gettysburg. This is the big commentary fan track only. We have rules and regulations of YouTube cannot violate. So this will be a fan commentary only. So, Ladies and gentlemen, is there anything you'd like to say before we get started?
All right. Well, once again, good afternoon to everyone out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, the sidekick for today's broadcast. First off, I want to wish everyone a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. Say hello to anyone who might be joining us after the Indianapolis 500. It's quite a race, very exciting, literally down to the wire. All right, so we are completing the film Gettysburg, and we are going to be starting off with the battle at Little Round Top, which is considered by some to be one of the best battle sequences ever filmed. And so we get the aftermath of that, and the main crux of the second half, which is Pickett's charge. So, all right. For anyone who's not seen this movie, let us know in the chat or in the comments, and let us know what you think by the end of it. And of course, as Bill was saying, due to copyright constraints, we cannot air the film, but you can join us on Cosme. The link to the screening room should be at the top of both of our chats. The film can also be found on physical media, and as well as Fandango at home. And I believe there's a couple of the other streaming services that air it. So what we're going to do is, once we have started the film, we are going to put up a commentary only banner, and that's when you will know. And of course, we'll give you the timestamp, and that way you will know where to begin the film.
All right, here we go.
We are going to be starting at 2 hours 11 minutes 7 seconds, basically the last 2 hours and 3 minutes of the film. We will, like I said, be the conclusion of the Little Round Top battle, and we'll begin in. Should I do the countdown?
Yeah.
Okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. Here, Chamberlain gets rescued by a couple of the main boys, the guys who were he was actually at the beginning of the film ordered to shoot, which of course he
Hmm.
refuses to do.
Now they were served. They had signed a contract. They had to serve a certain allotted time, and
Yeah,
their time was not up. So they wanted to go home, but the army said, you signed a contract. You have to do a service, and if you leave, we'll shoot you."
yeah.
So this is basically to the last man type of battle. The Confederates march up the hill as the Union Army is going to go down the hill to converge. Confederates are on the run. Yeah, they're out of bullets too.
Yeah.
Gonna have to take that on, sir.
A little more than that, I'm afraid.
Oh, taking an appetite right there in the field.
It
This one's a little. I hate to see the big one.
the pretty simple about how stuff are named around here.
Hello to Burley Bowman. Welcome.
And of course, that is where the first half of the movie ended, if you watched this on television. And now the beginning of the part two. This is where General Longstreet, played, of course, by Tom Berenger, goes to see to the wounded, and finds General Hood among them. The true life Harrison. Harrison was real. He's not a composite. He really was an actor and performed Shakespeare. Very well read.
Welcome, Curtis Shelby.
Oh, hey, Curtis. Curtis is going to be live streaming tomorrow night. So if you are sub to his channel, he has a poll up right now on what he's going to live stream about exactly. He's leaving it up to you. So go over there and vote. And finally, General Stewart. Hmm. Hello to the bird woman of YouTube, Tony Cleary. Good scene. Um, Richard Jordan is one of those character actors that I really miss. He was originally actually cast after this to be in The Fugitive with Harrison Ford, but unfortunately by that point he was too ill to complete that film. Timestamp 2 hours, 39 minutes, 15 seconds. This is the scene between General Lee and Stewart. Good example of leadership there. He called them on the carpet, he took them down a peg, and then he built them back up. Well done. Friday, July 3rd, 1863, the last day. Seminary Ridge. I saw this movie the first time. I was like, oh my God, is he gone crazy? There's no way this is going to work. But it's just that, it's not that. He's walked into a situation that's literally never happened before. And at least that he's seen. So, it's old school thinking that is kind of doing him in. Overconfidence, basically. Because this is the interesting thing is that Longstreet's now in the position that Buford was in at the beginning of the battle, seeing the battle like it's already done, already a memory, nothing to do but help it fail. Yeah. Oh, thank you. yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, right in the middle of the battlefield. Safest place you can find.
Box me in.
Yeah, shit. Yeah, right behind you, buddy.
Today it's gonna cost a hop.
You still with me there, Jimmers? Yeah. Needed a minute on that one. Yeah. She came in. We don't need gasoline. Oh, wait, wrong war. Okay. Kind
Let
of
me
tell
hear
you,
your war cry.
this Tombstone prequel, not what I was expecting.
Let me see your war face. Let me hear your war cry.
They did respect him. He was a man who garnered great respect among from like the officer corps on down. Colonel Alexander. Bond, James Bond. Well, just a one time.
Send them to the center. They're going to be the first to die. Ah, shut up, Stillwell. Get like that grin off your face. 305.17.
Cemetery Ridge, Federal Center. Yeah, I know how that one feels.
Hey,
Yep.
rub some dirt on it. Remember, you're a Wolverine.
Yeah.
Remember Wolverines?
Oh yeah.
You were badass.
Oh, right in the middle of the battlefield, eh? Yeah, I'm sure we're perfectly safe.
Their artillery is going to cut them into nothing.
Well, that's the idea. Hello to Acres of Movies.
Yeah, we're live. We didn't do a mystery movie last week because not enough of us saw the movie. My understanding is it was a horror movie called Corporate Retreat. And as for Gods and Generals, we are going to be doing that film in the future. Yeah. Of the two, though, I do prefer this one. We're at 3 hours, 16 minutes, 5 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, shit. Yeah. And hello to Jamie Lynn Simons. Good to see you. But, yep, finishing up the second half of Gettysburg. We're about to commence with Pickett's charge. Sends the film. Yes, and thanks again.
Yeah.
3 hours, 27 minutes, 50 seconds.
I'd probably just knock down the fence.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hancock's down. They're not breaking, they're just getting out the way. And the Ted Turner cameo. Armistead sees Garnet's horse without Garnet. I was always glad it was Tom that finds them, you know. Yeah, no, that didn't hurt.
Just put knocked under me. I'll be all right. You know.
Playing. At times, you worry me. Yeah. What's left of them, yeah. Generally, I have no division.
Was wiped out.
Longstreet is wounded severely in 1864, but returns to remain Lee's most dependable soldier. He dies in 1904 at the age of 83. After the first day, Buford's shattered division was taken out of the front line and deployed to guard the supply trains for the duration of the battle. That autumn, Buford is weakened wounds and in December died of pneumonia. Jeb is mortally wounded at the Battle of Tavern dies May 1864. Harrison survives to change in the battle. After the war, he returns to the stage to play Shakespeare. Pickett's division is virtually destroyed. He survives the war to great glory, but broods on the loss until his dying day. Hancock survives the wound at Gettysburg. In 1880, he runs for president on the Democratic ticket, loses to Garfield, and retires from public life. Union soldiers carry Armistead to a field hospital where he dies 2 days later. The package given to Longstreet from Elmira Hancock contained his personal Bible. After Gettysburg, Chamberlain is wounded 6 times and rises to the rank of Major General. For his day at Little Round Top, he receives the Congressional Medal of Honor. He is elected governor of Maine for 4 terms and later serves as president of Bowdoin College. He dies in 1914 at the age of 83. Lee serves until the end of the war, almost 2 years later. He dies in 1870, perhaps most beloved general in American history. Thus ended the clash at Gettysburg, the biggest and bloodiest battle ever fought on American soil. Combined losses of both armies exceeded 53,000. The decisive battle sought by Lee had ended in failure, but the spirit of the Southern Army was far from broken, and the war would rage on for 2 more devastating years. Filmed on actual locations at Gettysburg National Military Park in Adams County, Pennsylvania.
Hey,
All right.
shall you consult the scrolls?
Indeed. All right. All right. Gettysburg was released October 8th, 1993. Estimated budget of $25 million, going on to gross $11 million in the theaters. Chicago Film Critics Association Awards nominated Jeff Daniels as Best Supporting Actor. And I'm just going to read what it says, guys. And won a Stinker Bad Movie Awards for Worst Fake Beards.
That's understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. All right. Composer Randy Edelman was initially not interested in the project because of the massive amount of music he would have to write for a 6-hour miniseries. However, says Edelman, I saw the faces of these officers at the beginning of it and it completely turned me on. I knew I was going to have to do it. Cameo, Ken Burns, the soldier who tells General Hancock, please, sir, you must get down. We cannot spare you. Another cameo, Ted Turner. Confederate States of America Colonel Waller T. Patton, a forebearer of 2 future U.S. Army generals. During Major General Pickett's charge, some Confederate troops came to a fence that they had to climb over. Patton leads the charge and is shot down in front of the fence. Martin Sheen's role as General Lee was at one time slated for William Hurt, who bailed on the project when the studio financing the film at the time went broke. Tommy Lee Jones was approached, but he could not take it because his schedule was filled. Robert Duvall was the next most likely candidate, having approached the producers and done research on the role, Virginia accent and all, until Martin Sheen signed a sudden last-minute deal. And of course, Robert Duvall would go on to star in Gods and Generals. prequel. Richard Jordan died of a brain tumor on August 30th, 1993, 5 weeks before the film's premiere. His memorial was held in Los Angeles on the same day the film opened in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Martin Sheen was cast as General Lee at the last minute after production delays and scheduling complications forced out other actors, including Robert Duvall. Excuse me. Director Ron Maxwell said in interviews he was grateful to Sheen for accepting the part and doing such a great job and being a total gentleman about the situation. The film's original working title was The Killer Angels, the title of the source novel by Michael Shara, worried that the audiences might think it was a movie about biker gangs. Ted Turner changed it to simply Gettysburg. From the first ideas and story drafts to the final editing and post-production, almost 15 years of work went into the film. When Tom Chamberlain talks with the Confederate POWs, the scene is adapted from the painting of Prisoners at the Front by Winslow Homer. The opening credits include a sepia-toned shot of the painting. The Union officer in the painting is actually Brigadier General Francis C. Barlow. Charles Lester Kingsolving is a descendant of General Barksdale. Stephen Lang was thrown from his horse while filming the Pickett's Charge sequence. It is included in the film. Pickett tells Armistead he cannot order Garnett not to make the charge. At Kernstown in 1862, the Virginians were still under the command of General Jonathan Stonewall Jackson. Jackson had threatened Garnett with a court-martial for cowardice and dereliction of duty. Only Jackson's death stopped the court-martial. Pickett and Armistead would have known that as Virginians and friends of Garnett, hence Pickett's unwillingness to order Garnett to stay behind. The situation is fully set out in the novel. The scene in which the 20th Maine reaches the summit was filmed on Little Round Top. The actor with the binoculars behind him is playing General Governor Warren, who was not on Little Round Top when the 20th Maine moved into position. The man in the same pose as the famous Warren statue is blocking the camera from seeing the actual statue, which is right behind him. Warren is credited for having seen the Confederates under John Bell Hood massing in the woods across from Little Round Top where the battle started and sent an officer to find reinforcements. The officer Warren sent for help was Lieutenant Washington Roebling, who later built the Brooklyn Bridge. 3 Chamberlain brothers were at Gettysburg, although only 2 are in the film. John Chamberlain was a doctor who had come down to visit his brothers Joshua and Thomas. When Lee invaded Pennsylvania, John stayed with the 20th Maine to help. He treated the wounded of the 20th Maine on Little Round Top and helped afterwards at various field hospitals. Joshua said, "Split up, another close one like that could be a bad day for Mother." To John and Tom after a shell exploded in the trees over their heads as they climbed up Little Round Top together. This historical incident and dialogue is set out in the novel. George Lazenby insisted that he have a real beard for his role as Brigadier General J. Johnston Pettigrew in the film. His scene wasn't shot until he'd grown a full beard. Lee usually wore a plain uniform with 3 stars on the collar because he disliked the heavily braided uniforms worn by most Confederate generals. The 3 stars in the Confederate Army indicated the rank of colonel. Lee's rank when he resigned from the U.S. Army. Confederate generals wore wreathed stars on their collars, and their rank was indicated by the number of stripes on the brigadier sleeve. Longstreet and others all have the collar stars, 1 large and 2 small, but other generals have varying numbers of stripes in their braiding. A few brigadiers only wear the collar tabs. No one knows why Lee insisted on wearing this uniform with the improper rank. He occasionally wore the proper uniform, most notably when he surrendered to Grant at Appomattox. David Bear Jackson, a Confederate reenactor from California, suffered a heart attack days after participating in the Pickett's Charge scene. He was eventually moved to a hospital near Harrisburg, where he underwent a quadruple coronary bypass operation. He was discharged several days later, then died the night before he was to return home. He had received get well notes from Richard Jordan and Tom Berenger, as well as a medal given to reenactors for participating in the production. On the evening of September 2nd, the production held a memorial service attended by Ron Maxwell, Sam Elliott, Skip Cosper, and TNT's Vice President of Production, Nick Lombardo. Reenactors provided a color guard and a 21-gun salute. An exterior model of the Lutheran Theological Seminary had to be built due to the modern building surrounding the real one. It cost about $40,000 and appears in wide range shots. The real-life Lutheran Theological Seminary appears in one very carefully angled shot when Buford is writing the message to General Reynolds the night before the battle. Film's producers have gone on record saying this movie was going to be produced and aired by ABC as a television movie back in 1991. When the bad ratings for Son of the Morning Star came in, ABC promptly pulled the plug on the initial deal. Due to the film's long running time, theaters were limited to 2 screenings per day, usually at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Despite that, the film made more money in a limited release in its opening weekend than Demolition Man, the #1 film at the box office at the time. A screenplay and shooting script have an additional scene at the end that was never filmed. Following the Chamberlain brothers' embrace, Harrison stands on Seminary Ridge surveying the destruction left from Pickett's charge and quotes a line from William Shakespeare's The Tempest. "We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with the sleep." Harrison then mounts his horse and rides off into the night. From there, the final credits begin. A scene was filmed where General Reynolds' body is carried by stretcher past General Buford, who watches stunned from his horse before turning back to the battle. Historical advisors such as Brian Pahanka lobbied the filmmakers to remove the scene because it was not accurate, which was the advisor's self-driven mandate throughout production. The footage of this scene being filmed can be found on the original DVD release. Director cameo. Ron Maxwell as one of Hancock's aides on the third day when Hancock is introduced to Colonel Chamberlain. Tom Berenger has often cited this as being one of his favorite pieces of work, as well as the film he's watched the most times out of all of his other movies. Almost all of the first day battle sequences were filmed by the movie's second unit. The first unit and the majority of the production staff were several miles away filming the little round top sequences. Tom Berenger was so fond of his role as General James Longstreet that he opened up a restaurant nightclub in downtown Wilmington, North Carolina called Longstreet's Irish Pub. As of 2019, it was still in business. Tom Berenger formed his own production company, First Corps Endeavors, with producer William McDonald. It operated from 1995 to 97. It was named as a tribute to General Longstreet's command, a role Berenger often cites as closest to his heart. The film opened in 124 U.S. theaters on October 8th, 1993. Strong reviews and word of mouth doubled it to 248 theaters at its widest release. When soldiers from the 14th Brooklyn, the red-legged infantrymen, gather over the corpse of General Reynolds, it's meant to replicate the 1770 Benjamin West painting, The Death of General Wolfe. Kees Van Oostrum excitedly greeted members of the 14th Brooklyn the day of shooting, saying he was bored shooting blue and gray colors all day. Most of the interior tent scenes that were supposed to take place at night were shot during the day. The tents were set up under specially built aluminum structures that blocked out the sun and allowed easy access to outlets and generators. To avoid confusing the audience, Director Ron Maxwell had James Lancaster wear a bright red uniform and carry a cup of tea. Because Britain. Okay. Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Fremantle's actual British uniform would have been dark blue, similar to that of a Union officer. In real life, Fremantle never wore a uniform during his American trip. He wore the civilian clothes the character wore during the poker game on the first night. After the battle, Fremantle returned to England and wrote a book predicting a sure Confederate victory. Few of the ground explosions made any real noise when detonated for fear of startling the horses that were all over the set and injuring their riders. Most of the sound was added in post-production. The SPCA later praised the film in their annual report for going out of their way on behalf of the animals. Due to safety concerns, most of the artillery pieces on the set only fired 1/4 rounds, which is why so few of the guns in the movie ever recoil upon firing. Sam Elliott was so in character on set, he would return salutes from reenactors and address uniformed actors by rank. The movie was conceived as a miniseries for TNT, but when the dailies began coming in, Ted Turner realized he had something great and visualized it becoming a classic epic, like Lawrence of Arabia and Gone with the Wind. Turner came up with the idea to do a theatrical release first, which would add to the film's value when it aired on TNT and released on video. The biggest objection he received was that it was way too long and would be hard to come in at under 5 hours, even if it was edited aggressively. No problem, Turner joked. At 5 hours, we can charge double. Due to the length of the film, most theaters opted not to show any trailers of other movies. Towards the end of the intermission, during its theatrical run, theaters had the lights half dimmed, and the track Killer Angels from the score played. This was conceived by the filmmakers as a way to help bring the audience back to the film's atmosphere. Scenes in the cupola of the Lutheran Theological Seminary with Buford and his staff were mostly filmed on ground level. When filming was completed, the production crew gave the cupola to the property owners of the land that they were filming on. Those owners went on to use the cupola as a gazebo. The real cupola was from the battle, still sits atop the Lutheran Theological Seminary. C. Thomas Howell attempted to grow his own beard for the film. However, there simply wasn't enough time for him to sport an accurate representation of Tom Chamberlain's daunting facial hair. Cameo, Kelly Farrah. The Confederate officer, Colonel Chamberlain, guns down with his pistol during a little round top right before he sends Tom to plug the hole in the line. This was the first theatrical release for Turner Pictures. Production company threw a block party in downtown Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for the locals when filming was completed to thank the area for the summer-long filming in and around the town. Cameo, Emil O. Schmidt as General Gibbon, who speaks to General Buford outdoors at dusk following the first day of the battle. Schmidt was a professor and headed the theater department at nearby Gettysburg College. The film's U.S. television debut on TNT in June 1994 attracted the largest viewership ever for a movie broadcast on basic cable. More than 23 million people watched all or part of the two-night broadcast. During filming, Stephen Lang lost his tobacco pouch, which was part of his uniform. One of the Confederate reenactors gave him his as a replacement. Some members of the 20th Maine have a red Maltese cross on their uniforms or on top of their hats. It represents the 5th Corps of the Union Army of the Potomac, which the 20th Maine was part of. Soldiers from different corps wore different badges. Each division was identified by the color of the badge. 1st Division units wore red, 2nd Division wore white, 3rd Division wore blue. The scene shortly before Pickett's charge, where Lee is cheered by the troops, was impromptu. Some of the supporting cast had organized a thank you for Martin Sheen, and the reenactors ran out cheering for him. When the film of this incident was looked over, it was dubbed over with troops yelling Lee rather than Sheen, and added to the film. At the end of the September 1993 press screening in New York City, the audience was silenced for almost a minute until Martin Sheen began applauding all by himself, and other attendees gradually joining in. Cameo, Olivia Maxwell, a young Marylander beside the road who says, "I thought the war was in Virginia." As the Army of the Potomac marches towards Gettysburg, it's the only line spoken by a female character in the theatrical release. Pro-Confederate sentiment was strong in Maryland. The state remained in the Union only because Abraham Lincoln placed it under virtual military occupation and suspended habeas corpus. Had Maryland seceded, Washington, D.C. would have been completely surrounded by Confederate territory. In the director's cut, other females appear in another scene, and one has 2 short lines. Sam Elliott is the only principal actor in the film who wears a worn and faded uniform. When he was issued a brand new uniform for the film, he called for costume expert Lester Bayless and asked instructions to properly age his uniform. The actor carried out the process in his motel bathroom. All bugle calls heard on the soundtrack were played by Sergeant First Class and Master Gunner Duncan C. McQueen of the New Jersey Army National Guard, who also played General Buford's bugler. At the time of filming, Sergeant First Class McQueen was a member of both the Civil War reenactment group for the 1st New Jersey Cavalry and the New Jersey Army National Guard unit, at the time designated the 102nd Armor. Director Ron Maxwell tried to get this film made for almost 15 years. By the time he succeeded, Michael Shara had died. Maxwell met with his son Jeff Shara during production and convinced him to carry on his father's work. He did that by writing the prequel, Gods and Generals, and a sequel, The Last Full Measure. The former was turned into Gods and Generals. The younger Shara also applied his father's historical fiction approach to the American Revolution, the Mexican-American War, the American Civil War, and American Civil War in the Western Theater, both World Wars, and the Korean War. Martin Sheen appeared in Apocalypse Now opposite Robert Duvall and went on to replace him as Lee in Gods and Generals. Tom Berenger appeared in Platoon opposite Martin's son Charlie. The production team received the news of Richard Jordan's death while they were editing his character's death scene. Patrick Gorman originally auditioned for the role of Louis Armistead. Joss Whedon has cited this film as a primary influence for his short-lived television series Firefly, a science fiction metaphor of the American Civil War taking place on other planets. Ironically, despite the valiant counterattack by Brigadier Generals James Kemper's troops to rescue him as Union troops were taking him prisoner after being wounded during Pickett's charge, carrying him back to the Confederate lines, he was too badly wounded to be moved when the Confederates retreated from Gettysburg the next day. He was left behind only to be recaptured. Doctors said the wound was mortal, but Kemper recovered and went on to become governor of Virginia in the 1870s. Major General Isaac Trimble, whose injury was shown only in the director's cut, was also too badly wounded to be moved. He was also left behind to be captured. Just before the Little Round Top battle, a Catholic priest blesses the troops. In real life, the Irish Brigade received absolution from Father William Corby just before going into what became the second day of the Gettysburg battle. Background music is The Minstrel Boy, a popular Irish patriotic song. All 3 of the lead actors have played U.S. presidents. Tom Berenger played Theodore Roosevelt, Martin Sheen played John F. Kennedy, and Jeff Daniels played George Washington. George Washington's step-granddaughter, Martha Custis, was married to Robert E. Lee. Richard Jordan's distant cousin, William S. Jordan, was a sergeant in the 2nd Maine Regiment and one of the mutineers who was sent to the 20th Maine under Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. William S. Jordan was mortally wounded in the defense of Little Round Top, a pivotal scene in the film. When General Buford enters General Hancock's headquarters, a one-armed Major General is briefly visible on Hancock's right. He is most likely meant to be Major General Oliver O. Howard, a commander of the 11th Corps Army of the Potomac, which was present at the Battle of Gettysburg. General Howard lost his arm due to wounds received at the Battle of Seven Pines. also known as the Battle of Fair Oaks in 1862. Tom Chamberlain mentions that General Meade's son is his aide-de-camp. That son was George Gordon Meade Jr., 1843-1897. He was a captain at the time of the Gettysburg battle and remained his father's aide-de-camp for the duration of the war. General James Longstreet jovially points out that General George Pickett had graduated from West Point Officer School dead last in 1846. Longstreet graduated 54th out of 56 in 1842. According to Sam Elliott, he was originally given the script with an offer to play General Lee, but when another actor already cast heard this, he demanded someone else play Lee or he would quit. Sam Elliott had been trying to produce a movie based on the life of General Buford ever since this film's release. After Hancock is introduced to Chamberlain, Hancock asks about friendship of enemies in the time of war. Hancock was referring to Louis Armistead. The two were best of friends, closer than even the Chamberlain brothers. In his will, Armistead left his prized possession, a family Bible, to Hancock's wife, Elmira. Although the movie was a critical success, it only made $12 million at the box office against a budget of $15 to $25 million. It eventually made a profit due to television broadcast plus VHS and DVD sales. Cameo: Brian Pohanka, as Union General Alexander S. Webb. He goes uncredited in the final film. Roger Ebert thought the film was too focused on making American Civil War buffs happy. Gene Siskel saw it as Southern pro-Confederate propaganda. Both lavished praise on Jeff Daniels in the role of Union Colonel Joshua Chamberlain. Siskel said that Daniels deserved an Academy Award nomination for the role. I agree. And I think Richard Jordan should have been nominated as well, to be honest. Stephen Lang took such an interest in the history of Gettysburg that he facilitated the dedication of a memorial bench for Michael Shara, the author of the film's primary source material, The Killer Angels. The bench was dedicated on July 3rd, 2008, the 145th anniversary of the battle's final day. It is located next to the grave of George Pickett in the historic Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, Virginia. John Rothman, who played General Reynolds, stated that he was in tears when he realized that his extended scenes with the staff and General Buford were cut from the original release. He was thrilled to find them on YouTube. The film's script came almost verbatim from the Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Killer Angels. Almost all of the extras were Civil War reenactors. They provided period-appropriate uniforms, weapons, clothing, tents, and glasses at their own expense, usually over $1,000 per person. As a group, reenactors are very meticulous about what they and others eat, wear, carry, or use, including horsehair, toothbrushes, and a regiment's proper brass buttons. Martin Sheen and Sam Elliott also worked together in Grace and Frankie. The musical score was recorded in Salt Lake City. Ron Maxwell said after the first take of Jeff Daniels yelling "bayonets," Daniels was taken aback when Maxwell said he needed more. On the second take, he screamed even louder. That's the take used in the film. Applying Martin Sheen's makeup and hair as General Lee took about 90 minutes. During the Atlanta premiere, Martin Sheen was increasingly annoyed at an audience member seated behind him who offered a running commentary to the film's characters and what was about to happen. When the lights came on for intermission, Sheen turned to confront the person and realized it was former President Jimmy Carter. During filming, Tom Berenger organized a Friday night Confederate Officers Club meeting as a way for the actors to bond. These gatherings were held at the bar in the Farnsworth House Inn in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. At the beginning of production, Tom Berenger presented each Confederate cast member with a sword engraved to their character's name. From General Longstreet, Berenger paid for the swords himself. Charlton Heston lobbied unsuccessfully to read for several parts in the film, including General Hood. Bo Brinkman was originally going to wear a goatee for the part of Major Taylor. He went to Ron Maxwell on his first day on set after it was applied and said he looked like a kid in a high school play and begged just for the mustache. Maxwell agreed, and Brinkman wore just a mustache. Killer Angels author Michael Cera's son Jeff Shaw wrote both a sequel and a prequel to Gettysburg after Michael's death in 1988. Envisioning his father's work to be completed as a trilogy. The prequel Gods and Generals was published in 1996 and produced in 2003 by Ted Turner Pictures as the second epic-length film in the trilogy. However, Gods and Generals was both a critical and financial disaster, costing Turner Pictures losses in tens of millions. The final installment and sequel, The Last Full Measure, published in 1998, was never considered for production by Turner or any major studio after the colossal failure of Gods and Generals, despite efforts to get the final installment made, even as a TV miniseries. As of 2019, no production house or financial backers have expressed interest in the project, and it is effectively permanently shelved. Buster Kilrain is the only fictional character from the source material Killer Angels. Michael Shaw created his name as a portmanteau of killer and angel to form Kilrain. Kilrain is an actual place name. It can be found in County Donegal, Ireland, between the towns of Adar and Glentees. A female extra who may be a reenactor appears 4 times. In the 20th Maine, as they move out, is one of the Black Hats as they march along the road dressed in red as a guard and saluting General Buford as he enters the house. On the field as a Confederate during Pickett's charge. Richard Jordan was close friends with Killer Angels author Michael Shaw, upon which the film is based. Jordan also contributed to the screenplay, although diagnosed with brain cancer in 1992. Jordan completed filming Gettysburg, calling it a labor of love. His final on-screen appearance was the mortal wounding of his character, General Armistead. Jordan did attempt to film The Fugitive in 1993, but his deteriorating condition forced him to withdraw in April 1993. He passed away August 30th, 1993, while Gettysburg was in the final stages of post-production. Producer-director Ronald F. Maxwell dedicated the film to both Richard Jordan and Michael Shaw, neither of whom lived to see their cinematic creation. During the 20th Maine's charge, they captured between 308 and 400 prisoners, including 2 field officers from the 15th and 47th Alabama and from the 4th and 5th Texas regiments. One of the prisoners taken was a wounded John A. Oates, younger brother to 15th Alabama's commander, Colonel William C. Oates. John had been wounded, and the colonel was forced to leave him behind during the retreat down the hill. John was captured and later died in a federal field hospital. Colonel Oates never forgave himself for his brother's death. The prisoner's Thomas Chamberlain talks to mention being captured in a railroad cut west of Gettysburg and tell of savage fighting there. While these prisoners from Archer's brigade weren't at the cut historically, the 2nd Mississippi of Davis's brigade was. They lost their regimental colors, and perhaps 80 to 100 men captured at the railroad cut, with a total of 7 officers and 225 enlisted in Davis's brigade being captured in total. Those of the 2nd that escaped later took part in Pickett's charge, where they were again mauled. As testament to the fighting, the 2nd Mississippi went into battle with 492 officers and men. Of that number, 49 were killed, 114 captured, another 110 were wounded and captured by the Union, 138 captured unharmed, totaling 411, or 83% of the regiment. While Buster Kilrain is fictional, he could be based on one of 2 men of the historical 20th Maine. Tommy Walsh was an Irish immigrant and at 38, one of the oldest men in the regiment. He enlisted into the 20th Maine, partly out of patriotism, partly to support his family. He was described as a brave, diligent soldier whose uniform and musket were always ready for inspection. He was wounded in the Battle of the Wilderness and captured. He died of starvation at Camp Sumter, better known as Andersonville. Another possibility is Sergeant George Buck. Before Gettysburg, Sergeant Buck fell ill and was excused from duty. When he refused to obey an order from a quartermaster to cut firewood due to his illness, Buck was demoted to private for insubordination. On Little Round Top, he refused to leave his post until he was mortally wounded by a shot to the chest. As he lay dying, Colonel Chamberlain promoted him back to sergeant. After Pickett's charge, the only losses in officers in Pickett's division were mentioned. The exact number of men involved in casualty figures are hard to determine, as sources vary. It was somewhere between 10,500 and 15,000 men that took part. Of those, 1,123 were killed, 4,019 were wounded, 3,750 captured, 8,892. But again, that varies from source to source. With a combined death toll of approximately 8,000 soldiers, Gettysburg National Military Park is considered one of the most haunted locations in Pennsylvania. After the 20th Maine's charge, Lieutenant Thomas Chamberlain introduces Captain Hawkins, a prisoner taken who asks for water from Colonel Chamberlain. This is a crucial reference to the historical battle. One of the regiments attacking the 20th Maine was the 15th Alabama, commanded by Colonel William C. Oates. Before going into the battle, Oates directed a detail of 22 men to take the regiment's canteens and fill them up from a local well. The regiment began their climb before the detail returned. Trying to catch up, the detail got lost, blundered into Union pickets, and were taken prisoner, thereby depriving the Alabamans of their needed water in the heat of July. The film accurately shows Confederate cavalry leader Jeb Stuart being late to Gettysburg, thereby leaving Lee blind as to enemy movements and without knowledge of the terrain from his trusted cavalier. However, they didn't state why he was late. In truth, there were multiple delays caused by detours and skirmishes. Setting out in Virginia, Stuart's command met Army infantry at Haymarket, Virginia, and were forced to make a detour. At Fairfax Courthouse, they skirmished with the 11th New York Cavalry, delaying a day. Afterwards, they captured 125 supply wagons in Rockville, Maryland. Stuart understood his orders to not only scout the area, screen Lee's army, and forward supplies, he took the entire wagon train with him, slowing his progress significantly. There was another skirmish with the 1st Delaware Cavalry at Westminster, Maryland, costing Stuart another day. There was a battle at Hanover, Pennsylvania on June 30th and another one in Carlisle on July 1st. The town was garrisoned by local militia who refused Stuart's offer of surrender. Stuart ordered the shelling of the town to force submission. By then, Stuart learned of the fight at Gettysburg and ordered his men to disengage, but not before they set fire to the Carlisle barracks. A common sight in the film, especially during Pickett's charge, has soldiers firing their weapons into the air and or instantly falling under the discharge of their weapons. Or instantly falling after discharging their weapons. This is a safety rule for reenactors. Never fall with a loaded weapon, as the impact with the ground could cause it to fire. If the range between two sides is less than the set distance, then discharge the weapon into the air. Be safe with firearms, folks.
Especially if you're Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Sorry. Did I say that out loud?
To prepare for his role as Chamberlain, Jeff Daniels deprived himself of sleep and food leading up to the filming. In an interview on set, he stated, "When you're out there shooting scenes wearing 100% wool uniforms in the heat and humidity, you realize We've got the Winnebago as a crew. The guys 129 years ago didn't. When it was announced during the summer of 1993 that the film would be released in the fall theatrically via New Line Cinema, Ted Turner stated the grand scale of the battle sequences, the emotions of the men who fought, sometimes friend against friend, brother against brother, need to be shown in a theatrical setting in order for audiences to fully experience the impact of the three-day confrontation that changed the course of American history. In July of 1993, the 130th anniversary of the battle, a special screening of the film was shown at Gettysburg College's annual Civil War Institute to a selected audience of 850. They watched a 5.5-hour director's cut that had a temp track instead of the score, missing sound effects, and had yet to be color balanced, a process that takes place in the final stages of the motion picture negative printing process. Despite these technical shortcomings, the film was met with overwhelmingly positive reaction. As per their agreement with the Civil War reenactors who gave their time and expertise to the production, Turner Pictures donated $100,000 towards Civil War battlefield preservation after filming wrapped. $40,000 went to the Association for the Preservation of Civil War Sites to buy 39 acres at the principal site of the Battle of Tom's Brook in the Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. $50,000 went to the Friends of the National Park at Gettysburg for physical improvements to the battlefield, and $10,000 went to the preservation of various other battlefields. During filming, Sam Elliott stayed at the Cashtown Inn, shown briefly on the first day when Lee's barefoot soldiers marched past it on their way to Gettysburg. Martin Sheen was quite literally a last-minute addition to the cast. He signed a few days before filming began. Actor Donald Logue stated that during the many takes of the 20th Maine's charge down Little Round Top, he would be running so fast that when cut was called, he often had to pull himself up in the trees to avoid wiping out some of the soldiers at the bottom of the hill. Soldiers portraying the 20th Maine are instructed to act exhausted to drag themselves along. The real 20th Maine, like many of the Union regiments at Gettysburg, arrived following several days of forced marches into heat with little sleep. The rocky wall used as cover by the 20th Maine on Little Round Top was put together by reenactors the day of filming, only minutes before the camera rolled. The Little Round Top sequence was filmed in late September, and there was a shortage of Confederate reenactors on set. Many had returned home following the Pickett's charge scenes, and some were being used for the first day battle that was being shot by the 2nd Unit at the same time. Union reenactors, as well as members of the film's construction crew, were given rebel uniforms to help fill out the ranks. According to Ron Maxwell, no one on set realized that Richard Jordan was ill, including Jordan. In spring of 1993, Jordan was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer and endured a series of surgeries to prolong his life. In August of 1993, Jordan watched a screening of the nearly finished film in Maxwell's Los Angeles home and was in good spirits. He passed away later that week. While the film was in post-production and still being planned as a 3-part TV miniseries, there were discussions to use the narrative introduction to help tie events together for viewers who weren't familiar with the Battle of Gettysburg or only watched parts of the movie. This was scrapped when the decision came to realize it theatrically at a shorter runtime. All that remained was Morgan Shepard's opening narration, which is the forward to Shara's Killer Angels. The floppy hat Tom Berenger wore as General Longstreet was a strange source of contention on the set. Historical advisors didn't like it because it was not authentic, and the production staff didn't like it because it blocked Berenger's face. Berenger was talked into not wearing it for several scenes, including close-ups. No one is sure why he wore it. Instead of the more accurate officer kepi he would wear in pre-production at several of the film's premieres. It was often asked why Robert E. Lee wore the rank insignia of a colonel despite holding the rank of the general of the Confederate Army. Lee was a colonel in the U.S. Army before the Civil War began and said he would wear the rank insignia of a general only after the Confederacy won the war and was recognized as a nation. As the movie was being edited, Turner pushed Alan Horn at Castle Rock Entertainment to become the theatrical distributor. Horn refused, saying the movie was too long for theaters. While on a trip to LA, Turner told Horn he had an edited down version he wanted him to see. Horn said he was free to watch it after lunch and asked if 2:30 was okay, with Turner saying, "Well, that depends on what time you're planning to have dinner." Turner responded Turner would acquire Castle Rock and their co-financing partner, New Line Cinema, that fall. Ron Maxwell and Jeff Daniels almost got off on the wrong foot before production even began. Daniels was on Maxwell's radar during casting because of his mostly comedic roles at that point, but Maxwell agreed to meet with him at Daniels' home in Michigan. After watching Daniels perform in a play at his Purple Rose Theater Company, both men sat down at a local bar to discuss the role and the film. Maxwell still smarting over Turner executives overriding his first choice, Russell Crowe, for the role. And I didn't know that. Recommending Daniels. Asked Daniels if he had what it took to play Chamberlain. Daniels shot back, "Are you going to do this thing right or just do another bad version of North and South? If that's the case, I'm not interested in your project." Over several rounds and much discussion of the film, they became much more amicable with each other. Daniels wanted a part, and Maxwell saw him as a dead ringer for Chamberlain with incredible dramatic range. Daniels signed on shortly thereafter. Pieces of the musical score were used in some of the sketches during the October 9th episode of Saturday Night Live, hosted by Jeff Goldblum. The weekend Gettysburg opened in theaters. Robert Lee Hodge, who is credited as, quote, Confederate soldier, is the reenactor who appears on the cover of the book Confederates in the Attic by Tony Horwitz. All right. Filming for the movie marked the first time Sam Elliott had ever been in Pennsylvania. 3,000 extras were used for the opening of Pickett's Charge. The movie is based on The Killer Angels by Michael Shar, which was published in 1974. Won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 1975. Even though popular with American Civil War buffs, it did not become a bestseller until 1993, 19 years after it was first published, because of the success of the movie. Actor Richard Anderson portrays Union Major General George Gordon Meade. The Confederate General Richard Anderson commanded a division at Gettysburg that attacked the Union center on the second day of the battle. Actor Patrick Gorman, who portrayed General John Bell Hood, was 58 years old when this movie was filmed. At the time of the Battle of Gettysburg, General Hood was 32. During Pickett's Charge, a Union artillery officer is fatally wounded, then lowered to the ground by a sergeant. That officer is most likely First Lieutenant Alonzo Cushing, who commanded Battery A, 4th U.S. Artillery. During the charge, Cushing was wounded in the shoulder, and a piece of shrapnel tore open his abdomen. Despite these injuries, Cushing continued to command his battery until a Confederate bullet struck him in the mouth, killing him instantly. After the battle, Cushing was cited for valor and gallantry and posthumously promoted to lieutenant colonel. In 2014, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. Immediately after the Battle of Gettysburg, with his entire division effectively destroyed, Pickett was assigned to command the Department of Southern Virginia and North Carolina. In February of 1864, Pickett led Confederate forces and suffered a defeat at New Bern, North Carolina. After the battle, Pickett ordered 22 Union Army soldiers executed, an act for which he was labeled a war criminal. He subsequently served in other Confederate commands until the end of the war, but then fled to Canada, fearing a war crimes investigation and execution for the unlawful killing of prisoners of war. He only returned to the United States after General Ulysses Grant promised that Pickett would not be prosecuted. There is considerable debate as to whether or not Private Buckland, the spokesman for the Second Maine Mutineers, was a real person. In interviews before his death, Michael Shar stated that the only fictional character in his novel was Buster Kilrain, though in the film both Kilrain and Buckland's photographs are of random Union soldiers. There is no record of a Private Joseph Buckland on the rosters of the 2nd Maine, and the character's name may have been taken from an 18th century sailor who fired on the British ship Gaspee during the opening days of the American Revolution. Even so, several families from Maine several families in Maine claim to be descendants of Buckland, with oral traditions about his exploits at Gettysburg. Due to modern-day roads and a proliferation of monuments on the actual Gettysburg battlefield, a large number of the battle scenes were filmed several miles away in a constructed set located on an open area of Adams County. This included the entirety of the cavalry battle from the first day, to include a replica of the Lutheran Seminary, as well as Robert E. Lee's arrival, which was filmed in front of a mock-up of the Cashtown Inn. While the first part of Pickett's charge was filmed on location at Gettysburg, the filming stopped at the Emmitsburg Road, which is a paved highway, on the other side of which there are a number of monuments. The filming then resumed on the set location to show the Confederates reaching the angle, followed by intense fighting scenes. John Rothman played Major General John F. Reynolds, the first Union general officer killed at Gettysburg. 13 years later, in United 93, Rothman played Edward P. Pelt, one of the passengers who fought back against the terrorist hijackers aboard United Airlines Flight 93, which crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania on September 11, 2001. Less than 100 miles from Gettysburg, he therefore played 2 real-life men who died in a field in south-central Pennsylvania, resisting an attack on the United States on a critical turning point in United States history. When Hancock asks Chamberlain about classical sources for 2 friends, almost brothers, facing each other on the battlefield, he may be thinking of Balin and Balin in Mallory's Morte d'Arthur. Confederate officers' rank insignia as seen in this film: 1 on the collar, 1 stripe, 2nd lieutenant, 2 stripes, 1st lieutenant, 3 stripes, captain, 1 star, major, 2 stars, lieutenant colonel, 3 stars, colonel, 3 stars surrounded by a wreath, general. Confederate generals all wore the same insignia regardless of which general rank they held. Mark Moses was originally cast as Jeb Stuart, and the beard was designed for his face, not Joseph Fuqua, who eventually played Stuart, hence why Stuart's beard is so large in the film. Although there were thousands of slaves brought with the Confederate soldiers to the Battle of Gettysburg, there was only 1 slave referred to in the movie, a runaway slave depicted by actor Darrell Wharton, who was discussed by Chamberlain in the Union Army. According to Civil War historians, Confederate General Garnett's body was never accounted for after he was killed during Pickett's charge. In the film, Garnett is blown away by a cannon and his riderless horse trots off, disappearing away from the battlefield to symbolically carry Garnett's body, to symbolically imply Garnett's body, quote, disappearing. Although you got to think if he was truly that close, there probably wasn't much, if anything, left. And my guess is his horse would have been killed too. So, all right. All right. All right. Let me jump ahead a bit. There's one that's quite lengthy. I'll save that for last. According to Ron Maxwell, Russell Crowe was his first choice to play Chamberlain. Crowe, almost completely unknown in the States at that point, was an impossible sell to Turner executives who wanted a name for that role. Maxwell told Crowe and his agent that he would keep trying. He then did a screen test with Crowe in his backyard, with Crowe in a blue jacket similar to that of a Union officer. Crowe performed both the second main speech and the Killer Angels scene. And Maxwell brought that tape to studio executives as evidence he was the right actor for Chamberlain. Eventually, the head of TNT programming grew so frustrated that he told Maxwell that if he heard him say Russell Crowe's name one more time, he would cancel the entire project. The book which Johnston Pettigrew refers to during the field briefing, which Longstreet replies he will not have time to read today, was titled Notes on Spain and the Spaniards in the Summer of 1859 with a Glance at Sardinia, and was published in 1861. That's a terrible title. Shorten it. Come on. The Blu-ray director's cut of the film adds 17 minutes of additional footage, bringing the runtime up to 271 minutes, or 4.52 hours. The photo in the opening credits ostensibly of Confederate Brigadier General Richard B. Garnett, which morphs into a still shot of Andrew Prine, who plays him, is believed by many historians to actually be that of his look-alike cousin, Robert S. Garnett, who was also a Confederate Brigadier General and Richard's classmate at West Point. Robert was the first general officer on either side to be killed in action in the Civil War 2 years before the Battle of Gettysburg. C. Thomas Howell worked with Martin Sheen's sons, Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen, in The Outsiders and Red Dawn, respectively. In those films, he was allied with both, and as he and the elder Sheen are in opposite armies. Though this is their first film together, it's not the first time they've been in opposing casts. Howell made his film debut in E.T., which was nominated for Best Picture and Director, but lost to Gandhi, which Sheen appeared. After filming, the owner of the Cashtown Inn asked the production company what was to be done with the sign atop the structure made for the parade scene which reached Cashtown Hotel. They were going to throw it away. The owner took the sign and placed it in the Cashtown Inn restaurant. In the final scene of the movie, when Tom and Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain are reunited on the battlefield as the sun goes down, was the final scene to be filmed, a rare occurrence in a motion picture. Okay. All right, there's one more here. It's lengthy, but that's why I took the time out. In 1991, early in his career, actor, producer, writer Joshua D. Maurer approached Ron Maxwell to inquire if the rights to Michael Shara's The Killer Angels were available to adapt as a motion picture, and subsequently was informed that Maxwell already outright owned those IP rights from the Shara estate and had been trying for many years to get the project made, both as the director and writer, and had written an extensive feature-length draft, as well as a miniseries screenplay. As an amateur historian who is passionate about the study of the Civil War, Maurer was a diehard fan of the Pulitzer Prize-winning Shara's historical novel and asked Maxwell if there was any way he could help him. Maxwell was coming to Los Angeles, and a dinner in Beverly Hills was arranged, and Maurer and Maxwell, along with Maurer's fiancée, in which Maxwell told them of this long and frustrating struggle to get the project financed. At the time, the project was being seriously considered by TNT as a miniseries, but had not yet been greenlit. Ken Burns' epic documentary had come out in 1990, which helped raise awareness of this genre and story, but the final decision by Ted Turner to move ahead remained uncertain due to a number of factors. The First Gulf War had recently ended, making General Norman Schwarzkopf a national hero, and Maurer suggested to Maxwell trying to reach out to Schwarzkopf to see if he might be interested, perhaps to serve as either a narrator or to introduce each episode, hoping this possible attachment, if it could materialize, would help in some way in allowing the project to proceed forward. Although it appeared to be an extreme long shot, Maxwell agreed it was worth trying. And Maurer then reached out to his old friend and colleague, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Senior, to inquire how he could make contact with General Schwarzkopf. As Senior at the time was working as the head liaison officer for the Pentagon in terms of interacting with Hollywood on all manner of film and television productions. Maurer knew Senior as Paul was hired by CBS as a technical advisor for the critically acclaimed CBS television dramatic series about the Vietnam War entitled Tour of Duty, in which Maurer was cast and starred as Private Roger Horn. Senior had served 3 tours of duty in Vietnam, and by coincidence served Vietnam close friends with General Schwarzkopf's current personal assistant or aide de camp. Senior asked Maurer to write up a letter explaining auspices of Ron Maxwell's project, and instead, with Ron didn't explain Maxwell's brilliant screenplay adaptation, which Ron had shared with Maurer. And he would try his best to get the letter to Schwarzkopf's personal assistant. Maurer worked with Maxwell to construct a letter offering him the opportunity to be the film's narrator or be on camera to introduce each episode and to even play a role in the project or some combination of all 3. With Maxwell's blessing, Maurer then sent the letter to Senior and waited. Many, many months later, after a response came back with the surprising information that, in fact, Shar's novel, The Killer Angels, was the general's all-time favorite book. So much, in fact, that he bought dozens of copies and handed them out to his staff during the First Gulf War. And in addition, he made it mandatory reading when he taught at the United States Army War College. Unfortunately, General Schwarzkopf stated he was not available to work on the project, but was very appreciative of the offer. But he did say he would, if available, help promote the project and wished Maxwell and Maurer well. Maurer then faxed this letter to Maxwell in the hopes that General Schwarzkopf's kind and enthusiastic reply, which clearly extolled the general's personal passion for the novel and lost my place. Maurer then faxed this letter to Maxwell in the hopes that General Schwarzkopf's kind and enthusiastic reply, which clearly extolled the general's personal passion for the novel and the high regard and esteem he placed the work, might in some small way help. Maxwell then shared the letter with TNT and Ted Turner. In the end, the project did finally proceed forward as an epic TNT miniseries, which was then initially released as a feature motion picture. Whether or not General Schwarzkopf's kind letter helped in the decision-making process of Ted Turner and TNT to commit or not remains unknown. Alrighty. That is it.
The scrolls.
Closing the scrolls.
Well, I found a Western for next week.
Okay.
It's on Prime. On Prime Video. It is called Bad Man Must Bleed. Starring Chad Michael Murray, Bruce Dern, and Todd Terry. From 2025. One time, 1 hour and 51 minutes.
I am not familiar with it.
Neither am I. So I've never seen it, but I just found it. So, yeah. Maybe we can do that one for next week. So I don't know if it's good or don't know if it's bad. I don't know. Little to know nothing about that.
Let me look this up real quick.
Got a trailer
Since I
too.
still have IMDb Pro open here. Okay. Yes. All right. Yeah, I have found it. Bad Men Must Bleed. Yes. Follows a man as he hunts his brother's gang across the Old West to stop their rampage. Is written and directed by Michael Lyons. Came out in October of last year. And yeah, it has some familiar names in it. Like Bill said, you have Chad Michael Murray, Bruce Dern, who just recently turned 89. So happy birthday, sir. Brad Leland. You, if any of you ever saw CSI Miami, you might remember him as Sullivan, who was Horatio's first partner, who went wrong, became corrupt. Yeah, you might remember him from that. And yeah, okay, looks interesting.
Yeah. So and then tomorrow, special edition of Action Theater on the holiday. If you guys feel like joining us, we're gonna do the Longest Day. And then Wednesday in Harm's Way with John Wayne, and close her out for the month on Thursday, 1917, World War One.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we got coming up.
Cool.
I'd like to thank everybody who came out today. Jamie Limit Simmons, Connie Clary, the Bird Woman on YouTube. Watch out for that second channel, Fluff Chick Productions. Burley Brumman, new face. Aces of Movies, think who dropped in by.
Of course, thank you to the Tired Midnight blogger, Curtis Selby, who was with us on the Cosmic Chat.
Yeah.
All right. And we at one point had nearly 100 people watching us live. So thank you. Thank you all very much. Even if it was just for a few moments, we do appreciate it.
Yep.
And hope that everyone enjoyed the film. And please look more into the history of the battle and of the Civil War itself. And of course, go out and read The Killer Angels. And yeah, like I said, we brought up Michael Sarah's son Jeff, who is still writes a lot of historical books. He's in the middle of I think he just wrote a book about Pearl Harbor, which I actually have in my possession. Haven't gotten to it yet, but yeah. So go out and seek out both of their books, please.
You got any shows coming up later this evening?
I do. There's no unscripted tonight because I knew this was going to run a little bit over. But I do have shows planned for the next couple of weeks. I already have the topics. It's just going to be a matter of getting to them, unless something else newsworthy comes up. I am going to be appearing later on tonight on Reserved Seats. My show Reserved Seats returns at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central. Aged Boomer is going to be my guest. And we are going to be talking about the current state of horror films and streaming services. So it's going to be an interesting discussion. It's going to be tonight at 11 p.m. Of course, Boomer and I will be joined by Troy Pacelli and Netters Network Tuesday night at 8:30 for the next episode of Live from Sparkwood and 21. Then, of course, tomorrow I'm going to be joining Bill for The Longest Day. Wednesday for In Harm's Way. And Thursday for 1917 as we round out our month-long salute to the troops. And then, of course, later on Thursday night will be my program, Coming Attractions, where you get to find out what I am going to be up to next week. And, of course, stay tuned. Right back here, same bat time, same bat channel next week. For the next episode of Western Cinema Presents.
Yep. Alrighty. As I like to say, always remain to be excellent to one another. Have a safe holiday. Enjoy the rest of your 4-day weekend. And take care, and we'll see you at the next one.